Shalom from Israel to all of the Daystar viewers around the world. I'm Moshe Bar Tzvi, the producer and founder of Israel Now News. We at Israel Now News are dedicated to bringing you the full story and the truth about Israel from Israel. It's written in the Holy Bible when David said in Psalm 25:5, "Lead me in your truth and teach me, for you are the God of my salvation. For you I wait all the day long." And God says in Zechariah 8:16, "These are the things that you shall do. Speak out the truth to one another. Judge with truth and judgment to peace in your gates. And always search for the truth, and the truth shall set you free." John 8:31. I hope you enjoyed the program. God bless you from Jerusalem. Shalom, shalom.
Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan Elrom.
And I'm Aaron Viner.
In our top story, the head of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards has threatened the United States. Iranian officials deny that they have agreed to dismantle aspects of the country's rogue nuclear program and have begun to backtrack and threaten America. Mohammad Javad Zarif, Iran's foreign minister, told CNN last week that the Obama administration exaggerated the nuclear agreement. He said that according to the deal, Iran can resume its full capacity of nuclear activity whenever it chooses, and that U.S. President Barack Obama was overplaying Iranian commitments. In addition, Major General Muhammad Ali Jafari, the head of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards, threatened military action against the United States, saying direct battle with the U.S. is the biggest dream of pious and revolutionary people across the world. Another senior official from the Revolutionary Guards further threatened the United States by saying the Americans are well aware that if they make a mistake, the Islamic Republic's response will be crushing and devastating. He said that Iran can attack all the U.S. interest in the region, and Washington will never be able to show a proportionate reaction.
A senior official from Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas's own Fatah party has released a statement saying that the Palestinians will reject any peace plan proposed by U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry, and that the Americans are liars. Tawfiq Tirawi, who is a senior member of Fatah's Central Committee, said that the Palestinians in his faction know what the Israelis and Americans are suggesting, but that so far the negotiations are taking place only with the Americans, who are liars, because there is no framework agreement. Tirawi said that that too is a lie, and that even if John Kerry does present an agreement, the Palestinians will reject it. He went on to encourage the Palestinians to use violence as a form of resistance and praise the terrorists who have been involved in violent uprisings.
The Israeli security establishment has released its official report on terrorism for 2013. The document unfortunately reveals that terrorist attacks more than doubled last year. And although the number of casualties and injuries resulting from terrorist attacks decreased, the number of attempted attacks sharply increased. Last year, there were 1,271 terrorist attacks in the biblical heartland of Judea and Samaria. 44 Israelis were injured and 6 were killed by Palestinians. The report detailed Shin Bet's prevention of 190 attempted terrorist attacks last year. Israeli security authorities arrested more than 2,500 terrorists in 2013 and thwarted at least 40 attacks emanating from Gaza that involve convicted prisoners who are released in exchange for captured IDF soldier Gilad Shalit.
Israeli security forces have released the details of a thwarted bombing attempt on the U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv. According to a statement released by the Shin Bet Security Service, 3 Palestinians with ties to al-Qaeda were arrested for planning terror attacks at several sites throughout Israel, including the International Convention Center in Jerusalem, the U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv, and on an intra-city bus. The suspects have confessed to planning vicious attacks while reaching out to a branch of the notorious al-Qaeda terrorist network in Syria for support. All 3 are residents of Jerusalem who are in their 20s and early 30s.
Recently declassified Israeli court documents reveal that Hamas is attempting to infiltrate the Israeli Arab population living in Jerusalem. Indictments filed against Hamas members reveal an organized plot by the terrorist group to take over the civilian population of Arab neighborhoods in Jerusalem. The documents clearly show that Hamas is using incentives to bring the Palestinian population closer to Hamas's ideology in order to fortify its hold on the population and to build institutions with the intention of advancing and widening its circle of supporters. Hamas took over the Gaza Strip in a bloody coup in 2007. Since then, the people of Gaza have lived in poverty. International aid money, earmarked for food, construction, and medical services, is often rerouted to fund Hamas's terrorist war on Israel. Hamas is attempting to take control of the Arab residents of Jerusalem by brainwashing their children and bribing Israeli Arabs to transfer money for terrorist activities. They hope to make Arab villages within the Jewish capital a stronghold for terrorism and resistance against Israel.
Bloody riots raged throughout Egypt last week as both supporters and opponents of the current interim government marked the third anniversary of the revolution that ousted former Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak from power. At least 50 people were killed in violent clashes with Egyptian security forces. Supporters of former Islamist President Mohamed Morsi used the protests as a pretext to attack police, and the Ansar Beit Maqdis terror organization boasted that they succeeded in killing at least 12 security officers. The group is also claiming responsibility for downing an Egyptian Air Force helicopter that was patrolling the Sinai Peninsula not far from the border with Gaza, killing 5 Egyptian soldiers in a missile attack. Acting Egyptian President Adli Mansour announced that the country will hold presidential elections before the parliamentary balloting scheduled for July, with the early referendum expected to expedite the election of front-running candidate and interim leader General Abdel Fattah al-Sisi.
344 years after he was burned at the stake, Raphael Levy has been pardoned. In the year 1670, Levy, a French merchant from the town of Boulay, was accused of kidnapping a 3-year-old child and murdering her to drain her blood to make matzah for Passover. Hundreds of Jews throughout Europe were accused of and executed for blood libel. This vicious lie is still prevalent in Muslim countries and in rural communities in Europe.
Just before services on International Holocaust Remembrance Day, the Hungarian government apologized for its role in the Holocaust. In a rare statement, Hungarian President János Áder publicly admitted his country's responsibility for the death of over 500,000 Jews during the Second World War. Even though Auschwitz may be hundreds of kilometers from Hungary, Áder said that it is nevertheless a part of Hungarian history. And he went on to describe the Nazi death camp as a scene of inhumane suffering, humiliation, and the death of nearly 500,000 of his nation's compatriots. The Hungarian ambassador to the United Nations also addressed culpability in the mass murder of Jews during the war. Csaba Kőrösi said that in this forum, on behalf of the Hungarian state, no one has ever expressed in the United Nations the responsibility of the Hungarian state for its role in the Holocaust, and that an apology is owed the victims because the Hungarian state was guilty for the Holocaust. Firstly, he said, because it not only failed to protect its own citizens from destruction, but also because it helped and provided financial resources for mass murder. The ambassador then declared the official apology from the state must become part of his nation's memory and identity.
60 members of the Israeli Knesset and hundreds of Israelis observed International Holocaust Remembrance Day at the Auschwitz-Birkenau death camps last week. This was the largest Israeli delegation to visit the sites at one time. More than half of the Israeli Knesset, joined by 25 Holocaust survivors, visited Auschwitz, then walked to Birkenau, where they collectively recited Kaddish, the Jewish mourner's prayer. Member of Knesset Yariv Levin said, 7 decades after millions of members of our nation were cruelly murdered by the Nazis, it is my privilege and responsibility to lead the largest delegation of the Knesset, the parliament of the independent Jewish state, to the valley of death of Auschwitz-Birkenau. We will reach the gates of this horrible place with survivors who went through the inferno in order to honor the memory of the victims and say clearly, Am Yisrael Chai, the people of Israel lives.
The Knesset Christian Allies Caucus and the World Jewish Congress have joined together to honor Israel's Christian supporters. The 8th annual Night to Honor Our Christian Allies was attended by Israeli parliamentarians as well as Jews and Christians from around the world. Father Gabriel Nadaf and Jane Hansen-Hoyt were presented with the prestigious Knesset Award, which has become the highest honor a Christian leader can receive from the State of Israel for their steadfast commitment to the Jewish state. Father Gabriel is a Greek Orthodox priest who bravely advocates that Christian Arabs enlist in IDF, and he encourages their integration into Israeli society. As the president and CEO of Aglow International, one of the largest Christian women's organizations in the world, Jane Hansen-Hoyt was recognized for her contribution to Israeli tourism. The Knesset Christian Allies Caucus was established in 2004 and works to forge direct lines of communication between MKs and Christian leaders, organizations, and political representatives in Israel and around the world.
Those who dreamed about the Jewish state, those who wrought the historical miracle and against all odds established a state, those who arrived in the homeland to their new home, those who propelled Israel forward step after step.
I have no doubt that this expanded partnership with our many Christian supporters will greatly strengthen Israel in the years ahead. And I want to thank you all for being part of that historic effort and that historic partnership. May God bless all of Israel's friends throughout the world. May God bless you.
And that concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host Josh Reinstein, and we're here in yet another beautiful day on our rooftop studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Duke Westover, CEO of Duke International Tours. Duke, thank you for being on the show.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me.
Duke, your tour company is very well known here. You bring tours from all over the world to Israel, but you're probably more well known as being the chief of staff of Jerry Falwell, who had an incredible impact here in Judeo-Christian relations. Tell us a little bit about that.
He did indeed. Dr. Jerry Falwell was a very great friend of Israel. Since the beginning of the moral majority, he wanted to put into the tenets of the moral majority a strong support for the nation of Israel. And so he did. And so at one time we had over 7 million people who were active members of the moral majority, and every one of them were a friend of Israel. Every time that Dr. Falwell and I would come to Israel, we would meet with the Prime Minister and other government and military people, and he was always well received here. And I believe that Jerry is the one who let the people of Israel know that the greatest friend that they have in the world is evangelical Christians.
You know, Jerry Falwell was a trailblazer in standing up with Israel and against the people who stand up against Israel, and he did it from a position of faith. Why, as a Christian, did he think it was morally imperative to stand with Israel?
Well, mainly because of his belief that the Bible is the infallible Word of God, and the Bible says that those who stand with Israel, God will bless, and those that curse Israel, God will curse. And so Jerry took that literally. Every day of his life, Jerry was a proponent of what goes on in Israel.
Today in Christianity, especially in America, there are people who are still standing with Israel, but do you believe that that will continue with the generations to come?
It's hard to tell. The pastors today that are out there are not as astute at thinking about things of Israel as the last generation. I am hoping that there are people out there who will promote Israel and make people stop and think once again that we've got to stand behind Israel.
Well, one of the things that you were involved in is Jerry Falwell's Liberty University,
Yes.
which is a massive operation. Do you think that the students who go to Liberty come away understanding the importance of Israel?
I think they do. I really do think they do. I've brought thousands of Liberty students to Israel over the years, and they go back as real ambassadors of the nation of Israel. So I think they do.
You know, Duke International Tours brings very high-level delegations, also grassroots as well. Why is it important to you to bring so many people to Israel?
Well, once again, You've either got to believe that God's blessings will be on you if you bless Israel, or not. God is sovereign, and God said that if you bless Israel and take people to Israel, I love to bring people who have never been before, and I love to see their eyes light up whenever they see Jerusalem for the very first time. And they go on a boat ride on the Sea of Galilee. They can understand about the biblical reasons for supporting Israel, but the reason for supporting today on the political side is that it's the only thing we can do as a nation, because we have so many enemies outside who do not support Israel.
Do you think people who come to Israel understand the importance of modern day Israel, or do you think it just reinforces their belief in biblical Israel?
I think it's a little bit of both. They don't really know what to think about modern day Israel until they get here. Israel is so small, but it is so important to the world. There are so many things technologically that come out of Israel that people don't even realize. The last time I was here, about a month ago, there was a doctor on our tour that was a heart surgeon. And he came over here and he told us on the bus that the theories and the techniques that he uses for certain parts of heart surgery was developed right here in Israel. And so there's so much going on in Israel that people don't know about. Your press corps is not necessarily as pro-Israel as it should be, and so I don't think that the people of the world understand exactly what Israel is. All they see is somebody talking from a rooftop in Israel. They're talking about bombings going on in Gaza and in Lebanon and in Syria. And then the last thing he says, reporting from Israel. So everybody in America thinks Israel is a war zone. And I've been here 73 times and I've never seen anybody throw a rock in anger.
Well, Duke, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
Get behind Israel in everything you can. And come and visit Israel. Once you come and visit Israel, you'll go back home as an ambassador like no other way. The Bible has 4 Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And the state of Israel is the 5th Gospel.
Thank you, Duke, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
This is Jerusalem, Israel's capital city. It's an ancient and modern treasure that is beyond belief. There's a little bit of Israel in all of us. Come find the Israel in you.
Up next, Shining Light from Israel.
אנו מכריזים בזאת על הקמת מדינה יהודית בארץ ישראל, היא מדינת ישראל.
Anywhere else, this would be a vacation by a lake. But this is the Sea of Galilee. The wonders of Israel are beyond belief. There's a little bit of Israel in all of us. Come find the Israel in you.
Please stay tuned for the ICEJ report from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem.
When Israel was established in 1948, it was exactly as the prophet Ezekiel foresaw. Thus says the Lord, behold, I will cause you to come up from your graves, and I will bring you into the land of Israel. Israel literally arose from the ashes of the Holocaust, one of the greatest miracles in human history. Still today there are some 200,000 Holocaust survivors which still live in Israel. According to the Israeli government, there are still 1/3 of them who are in need and live below the poverty line. Over the past 3 years, the Lord placed a unique opportunity before the International Christian Embassy to help those heroes who survived the darkest chapter of Jewish history.
In December 2009, the Aid Department of the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem, ICEJ Aid, was approached by Shimon Sabag, the director of the social welfare organization Yad Ezer Lehaver, who was looking for support for a special project. Having been shocked to see Holocaust survivors coming to his soup kitchen for food, he realized that there was a distinct need and began a project to house 14 survivors in the building next door to the offices of the organization.
When we were actually approached by the organization Yad Ezer Lehaver in Haifa for Holocaust survivors, we somehow knew when we visited the project and visited the director that we had stumbled on something very unique. The project was very unique, there's nothing like it in the land, and also the organization itself had a proven track record, and we just knew that we had to start working with them.
Thanks to the generous giving of faithful Christian supporters worldwide, the ICEJ has assisted Yad Ezer Lehaver in achieving what was once just a dream, a neighborhood of multi-dwelling facilities able to provide practical care and a comfortable and safe home for more than 100 Holocaust survivors.
When we actually first met him, Shimon had a great heart and lots of dreams, but his vision for this place was at the most to maybe house 20 people. And we started on this together, not knowing what would happen, and seeing in the end this amazing street full of buildings.
The Haifa Home for Holocaust Survivors has captured the attention of the Israeli press and a number of Israeli leaders and dignitaries. At ceremonies marking the stages of completion, the attendance of senior government officials and leaders has given voice to the need to assist these individuals who have suffered so much. In the past year, the Haifa Home dedicated a synagogue on its premises to provide a place for the survivors to participate in Shabbat services and observe Jewish holidays. The synagogue also provided the opportunity for some of the survivors to have their bar mitzvahs, since many of them were denied this rite of passage due to being interned in concentration camps.
The Holocaust survivors are very old. They are from their end 70s into their 90s, and are quite a lot of them who are poor, they cannot live by themselves anymore, and who are lonely. And that's actually why it was so necessary to have a home for them, where they could feel cared for and they would be able to live their life in security and in a good atmosphere.
I didn't expect in my life that I'm going to end up here. Quiet, the price is right, I don't have to pay too much. And I'm so grateful to the International Christian Embassy. After all what we went through, they built for us a home where I'm going to spend the rest of my life here. I'm going to die here. And I'm grateful to all the people in the world who are helping us.
Please prayerfully consider what you can do in order to stand with us to help those last surviving heroes here in Israel.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.